Really? That's interesting.
Who reminds me of me?
No drugs were taken before this interview.
Well, I mean, reminds me. I mean, I'm certainly nowhere near their skill, but like Edward Arlington Robinson, I think sometimes Sam Cornish was a good friend of mine, Boston poet laureate. Sometimes my stuff is like his.
And he read one of your poems to start off that reading the other day.
Right. So,
which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think. You read my stuff. I didn't go to an MFA school, and I think I have a signature style, whether you like it or not. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that you would have lost that style if you went for an MFA.
No,
I think
but there is a
is
certain style, that when you're schooled in writing.
And that's a Masters of Fine Arts for anybody out there who's not quite aware of what we're talking about.
Right.
You mentioned Spoon River. That's actually my favorite set of poems.
Oh, okay.
But there's the Spoon River, and then there's this thing called the Spooniad, which has a lot of additional poems afterwards.
I didn't read that section.
And they're not as basic. The stories aren't as simple. The allusions are a little more difficult. For some reason, I don't understand it. So it's sort of like there are two different characters writing there. But I love Spoon River itself. And there's a great Steve Goodman song, Spoon River.
Oh, I don't remember that one, but it's a good one.
Very good. So one of the things that I noticed when reading it, there's sort of two main thrusts that I picked up on. One is the character study, and then the other is just this sort of experiential poem about what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're going through in different situations. Does that seem resonant or
character study?
Yeah, the woman on the toilet. Woman in the there's women, not character study per se, but focusing on someone that comes into your world in a kind of an interesting way.
Right. Either through the newspaper or through observation. And I think you have a background in newspapers yourself, and I think that probably there's the journalistic. I know when you write as a journalist, you're always looking intently. You have hopefully have a journalistic gimlet eye, and I think that lends itself to character study as well. For the looking for the the devils are in the details. You find that helps you at all in your work?
I think it makes characters come to life.
Yeah.
If you bring in a character and it doesn't have quirks and sort of odd turns in his cerebrum, it doesn't seem quite as real.
Yeah.
And
you got to have a certain groundedness, which I think journalism gives you too.
And we're all so different. I mean, when everybody starts to write about characters that seem the same, there's something missing.
So, by the way, you have two books out, Or So It Seems, which is available at orsoitseems.blogspot.com or
Well, that's the blog. You can go to orsoitseems.info to find out about it, or you could go right into Amazon. And the same thing with How to Train a Rock,
which is journalistic pieces, but they're not. They're
some are fiction. I called it Short Insights and Fiction Flights.
Yeah.
And what the neat thing about that is I sort of kind of bent the formula. There are ways in which I play with the experience. Sometimes I make it interactive, and sometimes it's just just me going off on a wild tangent. Tell us about what it's like to write a poem.
Well,
in your experience,
like today, I read a line. I thought it would be a good poem. Why speak to the why speak to the monkey if the organ grinder's in the room? And I thought that was some politician made that.
Right.
And I said that would be great, and it just went blank. I didn't get anywhere. Other times, I can see something or something like I'm in a block now. Like I noticed that in poetry, like anything else, you're in a streak. Like you tell me you're a creative director for W.B. Mason, and you say sometimes it just flows out, and other times it doesn't.
It's a little different for me with any of my work when I'm paid to do a job.
Yeah.
I take in the input. Something responds. If I have more time, then the response will get deeper or more interesting. But something always comes back with something for me to work with.
I mean, so, the same respect, it just may not be at this period, you know, like I've been in a period where I haven't, so nothing came of it. It sounded like a great idea. Sometimes I'm jumping on like a dog on a meat truck,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's no meat on the truck, you know. Other times, it's there and I'm just writing madly, and then, you know, so it's, you know, it's not, like you say, you know, it's like a voice, you know, there's a muse that says this is something. I was walking in the supermarket today and I just saw, you know, they have like a line of chairs over at Market Basket, and there are old ladies there, sitting there, and, you know, that's their drama or whatever, and I said, this would be a great idea for a poem, so maybe I'll get back to
Right,
it.
it is a great
Yeah,
idea
yeah,
for a
for a
poem.
poem.
I can sort of hear it.
Right now, but, you know, it's just, you never know when the stuff is gonna come, and if you're gonna be able to translate it into a poem.
The thing that I've learned about the creative process, because I can sometimes, if I've got an assignment, let's say I'm writing commercials for W.B. Mason, I know that it's not fully cooked. If I'm the one that's gonna pull the trigger on when we meet to discuss the ideas, I could sit down at a computer and work on it for a few hours, but I know it's not fully cooked. It's not gonna be there when I want it. And I don't know, it's just over the years I've come to recognize that. I think before I thought I was being lazy or something else, but I've come to kind of understand how the mechanism works. And with, I can sense ideas coming together for the next novel, which I think will be a sequel to Or So It Seems. And it's just a kind of an interesting idea that something in me is starting to play with. But now talk about a poem recently that you did manage to complete and you feel good about. What was that process like?
Well, I was very good. I did a whole. I've always been very influenced by Beckett, Samuel Beckett. I loved his stuff, his plays,
Mm-hmm.
and
As opposed to his songs.
Right. Well, he has songs. You know, he was
Did it?
very influenced by vaudeville. I mean, if you see Waiting for Godot, a lot of old English. What do you call
Music
them?
hall?
Music halls. You know,
Oh,
remember
okay.
The Entertainer with
Oh, I do.
with
Laurence
Laurence
Olivier.
and he loved that stuff, the slapstick and all that stuff from vaudeville. But anyway, getting back to the point, yeah, there was something I just had revisited. It was Krapp's Last Tape, and I don't know if you're familiar with that play, but
No.
it's a 69-year-old guy. You know, his life is a shambles, and he's in a furnished room. And he keeps playing back this tape to this one love affair he had when he was 39, just at the end of his youth, you know, 39, and he's 69 now. And he keeps playing back and commenting and going back and forth, and you know, he's there at some desk, and I just had to write about it, you know, and it just came, it just flew, you know. I had a, you know, I always feel I've had a kindred spirit in Samuel Beckett
Mm-hmm.
for some reason.
So is the poem about
him, you know, further, you know, my take on
On that story?
more of a description of Knapp, Krapp's Last Tape, yeah, and
is his name Krapp?
Krapp.
Oh, okay.
Krapp, yeah. He had a sense of humor, Beckett, yeah.
Uh-huh. Apparently.
Yeah.
Of all your work, do you have any poems that you regard as your favorites?
Well, I think I've written a number of poems about my late father. I was inspired to write a lot of poems about him, and sort of the sentimental favorites. I remember writing an image of my father. He used to, you know, go to the vaudeville, and it was this old saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, take my advice, pull down your pants and slide on the ice." And he used to recite that to me. I was on his knee, and, you know, the little boy was about 40. No, no, I was on his knee.
Sonny
And,
boy.
and he would recite. I used to laugh. You know, we used to have a great time about that. And then there was also the times where we went to Benson's Deli. I wrote a poem about that, and he introduced me to all the things when he grew up in the Bronx, you know, like the Knishes, and because we live in Rockville Center on Long Island, which was very homogenized, and so this was like the old world.
Mhm.
And revisiting his old area in the Bronx, and, you know, the stories he had, and the great. For you lived in the Bronx, so it was no mystery. But coming from Long Island, going with the White Stone Bridge, going into this exotic land of the
Right.
Bronx, which I just found endlessly fascinating as a kid, you know.
Right.
And so those things are you know, sentimental favorites. I've written